Hello, Fimi here, back with another YouTube video. It's been a while, but recently, or actually for the past year or two, I've been playing Pokemon cards competitively, and it's one of my main hobbies rather than playing, video games and editing them into montages and post them on this channel. Today, I really want to present to you guys a off-meta deck, a rogue deck that I've really been enjoying to hit the meta, and something that you could play for, if you just want to have fun on the live or anything like that. For those of you who do not know, I have a podcast with my good friend Jeremy, the Don Bozos podcast. There we talk about our Pokemon thoughts and competitive plays and things like that. So it'll be pinned comment below. Please, please, please subscribe to the podcast. We work really hard on it, and it's a lot of fun, and we want to keep it going. So yeah, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. So today, let's get into the deck profile. I'm going to be covering Ho-Ov, or also known as Big Bird Box, Thornton Box, a little bit my friends call it. I want to just give it a huge shout out and talk about it because I've been having a lot of fun and a lot of recent success playing it into meta decks such as Bolt, Guardy, Zard. You know, really just a fun deck overall, and I want to just share it off with you guys. And I know a lot of my friends and locals have been wanting to play it. So let's go ahead and do the profile. So first, we're gonna start into the main Pokemon here. It's gonna be the Ho-Ov, and you're only gonna want to two of them, and you're not gonna want to start them because the ability is when it's in its discard pile, you may put it onto the bench and then load up to 4 basic energy cards to it, and that ends your turn. So really fun ability here. And this is going to be the main part of the deck. And the reason why you don't want four is because you don't want to start it because the ability you have to use it in the discard profile. So we're gonna have two ho-ohs for the main Pokemon here. And next is going to be all of the support Pokemon. So here we have Squawkabilly. The reason why we run two is because we do not want to prize any Squawkabillies. And if we prize it, then it's bad because you have to go first with this deck to load up the Ho-Oh because the Ho-Oh does end your turn when you put it onto the bench for with 4 energy cards. So you want to make sure you have Squawk ability to make sure to turbo through your deck. Next, we're going to go through all of our support Pokemon. Along with the Squawk ability, we have Mew EX, Lumineon V, Raining Greninja, and Tatsugiri from Twilight Masquerade, the most recent set when this video is being recorded. The Mew's self-explanatory. It's the draw engine. It has restart when 3 cards to fill your hand, but it also is a free retreater when you don't have a retreat option after a Pokemon dies. The Lumineon is self-explanatory. Just we're already running a ton of 2 prizes in the deck, so it doesn't hurt to run Lumineon to find a supporter card. Greninja is obviously a part of our draw engine with Mew EX. There's not really any draw engine with this deck, so having Greninja is really nice. Discard energy, draw 2, especially when you need to send energy to the discard pile. And then, of course, if you start the Tatsugiri, if you pivot into it, it's really nice because there's really only 2 main supporters in this deck, Carmine and Thornton. And Tatsugiri finds both, and you're running a pretty heavy line of both of them, which we'll explain later. So these are the support Pokemon. Mew also serves as a pretty good attacker as well. If you're playing against Tina, or if you need to out Mimikyu or things like that, Mew is always a great attacker. And I'll explain how you can charge Mew later, even if it's on the bench. Next, we're going to go into attackers. The most important attacker of this list is the Entei V. This is because it is a 2 energy attacker and also holds your 4 seal stones. So while you're going first and you're going through your deck to put energies and Ho-Oh into the discard pile, you can put Entei down and attach energy for the turn, and then next turn you can also attach again, and you may attack with the Entei if needed, or just hold your 4 seal stone. Also, having fleet footed is nice. 230 HP with a water weakness is pretty good, is not bad. Obviously, the only water deck really here is Chien-Pao or any Lost Box deck. Really good attacker overall. There's a reason why it won LA Regional along with Control. Very strong attacker. Now, the next attacker I'm going to be talking about is the Thornton attackers. So all these attackers are able to get Thorntoned into from the Ho. Now, if you don't know what Thornton is, I'll explain later, but it's basically a supporter card that allows any basic Pokemon on your field to get swapped out with the basic Pokemon in your discard pile and keep all of the energy, effects, tool attachments on that Pokemon. So basically, how this deck works is you load up the Ho-Ov with a bunch of energies using his ability, and then you simply thorn into your attackers based on what you need. Now, the main Pokemon you are thorning into are these 3 right here: the Iron Hands, the Okidoki, and the Roaring Moon. The Iron Hands is good for any single prize or matchups. It's self-explanatory. Okidoki is good to counter hands or any lightning matchups such as Rhydon or anything weak to fighting. Also, just a good single prize attacker if you want it. And then you have Roaring Moon, which is good into Gardevoir EX, as well as just a really strong attacker. So again, all three Pokemon really strong attackers, but also just really good into a lot of matchups in the meta. And then finally, our last two attackers are Leaves and Blood Moon Ursuline EX. Blood Moon Ursuline EX, you don't really need a Thorn into early game. When you have Thorn, you mainly want to Thorn into your other attackers. But, it's a good end game. It's like Radiant Charizard. We all know Ursuline EX is really busted. And of course, we have Leaves. This is for the Charizard EX matchup or any Pokemon weak to grass. What's really cool about Iron Leaves is you don't have to Thorn into it. You can just load a bunch of grass on the Ho and then just Rapid Verner and then it moves the energy off the Ho, and now you can still have energy conserved on the Ho, and there are XP shares in this deck. So this is the Pokemon lineup here for the Ho V deck, and I'll explain what's so special about this deck, about the attackers, after we go over all the energy cards. So next we're going to go into items. We're going to pick a 4-line of Ultra Ball. This is pretty obvious. You want to be discarding cards as well as finding Pokemon to put in the discard pile. The reason why we only play 3 Nest Ball is because these are mainly just to find your setup Pokemon to put onto the bench. So, for example, Mew EX or Squawkabilly. You don't want to put you don't want to put the hands or the Odoki Doki or the Ho directly onto your bench because they need to be in the discard pile for the deck to work. Next, we have one Heavy Ball. We play a lot of one of basics. I find one Heavy Ball to be enough. If you prize more than 3 basics of your attackers, that's pretty unlucky. But really, you only prize maybe 1 or 2. Only 1 Heavy Ball is enough. And you turbo your deck fast enough to find the Heavy Ball. We're going to play 3 Earthen Vessel. This should be pretty self-explanatory as it finds energies as well as uses discards other like Pokemon to put into the discard pile and find energy to then either use Radiant Greninja or to just dump them with Ultra Ball or Squawkabilly. Next, we have our Counter Catcher. We're playing 1. There isn't very much room because we are turboing and you might discard it quite often. So just one Counter Catcher just in case if we get behind. But since we are going first, we often don't get behind and get ahead and need to stay ahead. And then we have Palpad because every time I play a turbo deck that discards a lot, you want to be using Palpad because, for example, if you start a supporter card that you can't use, for example, we're using a lot of Carmine and that's the card we're going to be using in the beginning turn, then we can always Palpad back supporter cards that we need to see again throughout the match. Next, we're going to have one Rod. Same thing as Palpad. Same reason why I play Palpad is because, again, if we, say discard the Ursaluna, or if we need energy back, or if we discard, Luminion or something in the first few turns that we don't use them, we can always Super Rod them back. A really big one is I'd like to target the Ursaluna because they're, you want to recycle them. Next, we are playing 2 Switch cards. If you do want to pivot, we are using all basic Pokemon, so the Switch card is a good pivot option for Pokemon. We only need 2 because we do have Free Retreat as well as a Rescue Board for another pivot option. Okay, so make sure to keep your pivot option open. Remember which pivots you have. And again, the Mew EX is a really big pivot option for the deck. Our ace spec is going to be Prime Catcher. This is pretty obvious. Most reg decks play Prime Catcher to help with the boss as well. And plus, we're using Thorn a lot, so we can't really boss every turn. So Prime Catcher is an obvious ace spec choice. Although you can mess around with Secret Box or Neo Upper Energy as well. For our tools and stadiums, we already went over Rescue Board. We're going to go over 2 experience share. Now, this is really vital to playing the long-term game. Before, I didn't run these, but when I started playing more and more of this deck and I wanted to win more games, experience shares are really vital because when you get 4 energies on the Ho, that's really your only way to accelerate energy. The other ways is hand attaching and preserving energies with experience share. I'll explain why experience share with hand attaching and our other supporter cards is really important, but always remember where your experience shares are and how many experience shares you have in your deck. Last but not least, we have 4 Sealstone for tools. This is pretty obvious as it is. We have a V and we need a V star, so we have 4 Sealstone in the deck. For our stadium cards, this is going to be pretty obvious, but we're going to run 3 Pokestops. This is to turbo out our deck as well as using them for Roaring Moon EX. Pokestop is really useful. They were a lot more useful when I had trekking shoes in the deck, but with no trekking shoes, what is the replacement, you might ask? It is going to be Carmine. So this is going to start off a support line. It's going to be a thick line of Carmine, and this is because we want to see them on our first turn of the game. We are going first with this deck, and you want to go first. If you go second, it's a little bit okay, but you risk your Ho getting bossed and killed right away. Going first is really vital for this deck because there's no downside of going first since your only draw supporter is Carmine. I did used to have research and whatnot in the deck, but it just wasn't worth it because Carmine is just better. So next is the main star of the show, we have 3 lines of Thornton. I was trying 2, I was running 4, but 3 with Palpad is certainly enough. You're only using 1 or 2 in a game. Maybe you're using all 3 and sometimes even 4. So Thornton is really important because it turns you Ho-Oh into one of your attackers in the deck. So make sure you guys use your Thorntons wisely and catch some opponents off guard. Really, really cool card, and I'm really glad they liked it. And of course, we're running 1 boss because you can't ever go wrong without a boss in a Pokemon trading card game deck. And the last supporter is Mela because we are running Fire Energies for the Entei, and Mela is really good because it's kind of like Raihan, and with this deck, we have every single energy and every single attacker has at least a colorless in its attack cost. So the Mela is really good for late game strategies. For example, say you have Roaring Moon benched and you have experience share on it, and say your hands die and it has a dark energy, you can move the dark energy to the moon, attach a dark energy from hand, and then mellow the fire energy in this card onto the moon. And now you got an attacking moon. And you could do the same thing for Mew EX. Remember I mentioned before, Mew EX can attack. Same exact thing for Mew EX since there's only 3 energy cost. And it's just really good. You can use it with Bear. You can use it with the hands. The only thing you can't use is with the Okidoki, but that's absolutely okay because Okidoki is really used in really minimal matchups. So yeah, experience share and Mela is really vital to use an attack. Catch a lot of opponents off guard with this deck. Now here comes the funniest part of the deck is the energies because we're using a lot of energies, but actually we're not actually using too much compared to a lot of decks. We're actually using, I believe this is 13 energies. It is a lot, but remember we are turboing the deck quite a bit with Squawkabilly and Carmine turn 1. We're seeing at least 20, 25 cards in the deck. So how I choose the energy styles is 1 extra energy per requirement cost. So example, Entei is 1 fire, 1 colorless. So we're gonna go ahead and play 2 fire in the deck. And then Hands is 1 lightning to use amp you very much. So we're gonna go ahead and play 2 lightnings in the deck. And then Okidoki is 2 fighting, and then you need 1 dark for the ability. So we're gonna go ahead and play 3 dark because it needs 2 dark to use the deck. Iron Leaves requires 2 grass energy, so we're going to go ahead and play 3 grass energy. And then, of course, Roaring Moon needs 2 dark, so we're going to go ahead and play 3 dark. I play 1 more than required to make sure that if 1 energy is prized, we still have the other 2 to play with. Now, what's really cool about this deck and why I enjoy it so much is because you can choose the attackers you want just based on how you like or based on what's on your local. So, always keep the Entei because it's a solid good attacker. But for example, if there's no landing Pokemon, then you can remove Okidoki, put in another Pokemon of your choice. Maybe you need a steel type, then maybe you can put in Zamazenta V. And then instead of 3 fighting energy, you can go ahead and play 3 metal energy. So again, all this is really awesome, but if you want to play with a certain basic Pokemon that hits hard and can throw an into, then you could absolutely remove one of these basic Pokemon and put in a new energy type. So again, if there's not very many Zards or not many Grass Weakness, you can remove the Iron Leaves and put in a new basic Pokemon. So that's what's really cool, and that's what I really like about this deck, and it's a lot of fun. I recommend you guys trying on live or on your locals. Ho-Oh-V, super fun. I've been trying to, play Ho-Oh-V for a really long time, since pre-rotation, since the D-rotation. Ho-Oh-V, ever since it came out, it's just a cool card, and I know, yes, it ends your turn. It'd be so busted if it didn't, but man, this deck is really fun. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. Shout out to anyone who is following the podcast. We'll definitely be talking about this deck profile on the podcast very soon. And yeah, leave a like and comment some rogue decks that you guys enjoy, or comment what do you guys think about this deck, and ask me a question on any matchup in the meta, and I'll gladly happy to answer what you guys have in mind for matchup spreads. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to stay safe and leave a comment and like the video if you guys enjoyed it. See ya.